After 115 years in this historic building, the Expositor has left the downtown. I'm Susan Gamble. I've worked here for more than 22 years, although some people would consider me a newbie in the place. And I'm inviting you to join me on a video tour of the old girl. Here's the original building, erected in 1895, and you can see when the major expansion took place to the right in 1950. At that time, the enormous plate glass windows were imported from England, and the marble and granite that's still in fantastic shape in the lobby came from Europe. Most visitors see only the front office, where workers deal in customer service, classified advertising, circulation, and reader sales. But off the main office is the corner office, for decades the domain of the newspaper's publisher, the current one being Mike Walsh. And the ancient super secure vault is also off this oak-paneled room. Once this building housed about 150 employees, but major changes in the news business have drastically reduced the number of workers over the years. The enormous press that was the pride of the paper in 1970 was stilled in 1991, and the last bits dismantled earlier this year. Typewriters and teletype machines in the newsroom were replaced by computers, as were the hot lead machines and compositing technology of the composing room. Here's the newsroom. Canadian icon June Callwood worked here as a young girl and called it her journalism school. And dozens of young reporters passed through this room before going on to become big-name writers at national papers and magazines. Nearby is the newspaper library, years ago known as the morgue. Thousands of files and negatives have been collected here over the years. The negatives are now with the Brant Historical Society in order to be digitized for posterity. A darkroom set up for 4 photographers in the 1970s and 80s has been disused since the newspaper moved to digital photography in the late 1990s. Advertising has always been a critical part of the newspaper, and the sales reps here work closely with the compositors, the men and women who build ads and special presentations of the newspaper. But nearby are great empty spaces. They remind us of how times have changed. The 3rd floor of the building has been empty for years, but at one time a busy cafeteria was operated here, along with a department dedicated to circulation. Back on the 1st floor, we go behind the scenes to what is still known as the mailroom. Here, inserters compile advertising bundles that are added to the daily paper. The newspaper has to accommodate dozens of skids of flyers for upcoming events. When the press was here, it took up more than 2 stories, and when it was running, the entire building trembled, and over the years, the smell of newsprint and ink permeated everything. Every building has a basement, but a daily newspaper with a press needed an extraordinary basement. Under the original building, the wooden floor is more than 100 years old, and here the original press was operated with newspapers rolling up a trolley to the street. Lately, it's been used for supplies and storage. But down a few steps, the basement opens up into several cavernous areas. Here, enormous rolls of newsprint of various sizes were stored for use on the press. The paper came down a chute, rolled out onto a trolley, and was wheeled around on rails built into the floor to a designated area. Also in the basement is much of the multiple systems that were required to keep a building of this size operating. At one time, this building was state-of-the-art and much admired in the city of Brantford and by other newspapers across the country. But by 2010, the Expositor building was almost 2/3 empty and the structure failing. The roof leaked badly, and it's been an ongoing challenge to keep the heating and air conditioning systems functioning. After 115 years, it's time to breathe new life into the old girl. The new owner, Peter Vicano, has promised to retain many of the fine architectural features in the building. The place will be gutted and find a new life as a business, residence, or educational facility. And so, on behalf of the hundreds of reporters, editors, pressmen, photographers, salespeople, clerks, librarians, compositors, and support staff who have worked in this building since 1895, we wish you the best. This is Susan Gamble for the Expositor.